All right, good morning. Let's get this show going. Okay. So the news is over. The Fed is out of the way. Who knows what's going on with China when that'll reemerge its head? But let's look at the markets. So yesterday on the Fed news, and the Fed chair was speaking, the markets went down and miraculously came back in its normal schizophrenic type of price action where it just seemed like it was just going down for the count. And, it came roaring right back. So just looking at the charts and what I said yesterday in the room was like, okay, this is kind of crazy price action. We're involved with it as intraday traders. And, it does seem crazy. However, as I mentioned, we look at the charts and say, well, theoretically, anything can happen, but it really wasn't so crazy. Excuse me. When I think if you look at it later on and just looking at the charts and say, oh, well, it's a bottoming tail bar. It's in an uptrend. It's at resistance, and so far it's just a shallow pullback. So it doesn't seem so crazy from longer time frames, and that I think in and of itself is something to to realize is that the closer you get to the moment in the markets, the more crazy it can be. And, if you're, say, even looking at a daily chart where this overlapping wide range bars, and we were looking at, the spiders, we see gaps and so on, the more crazy it gets in a smaller time frame, the louder the message to go to a higher time frame and not get caught in that craziness. So that's what we have. And as I brought up this 5-minute chart here, and as you can see, this kind of price action, while it's getting extended, getting ahead of itself on a shorter time frame, and we can see that by the acceleration to the upside here, where it's going vertical in the wider range bars, which is suggesting that this move is close to at least a stall in momentum. And that's already happened. So we've got, the third bar here. There's 4 minutes to go in this last bar, but the momentum is already stalled. So the message here is when you see things start to go vertical and the ranges expand, expect the momentum to stall. And it doesn't mean it's going to pull back hard or, it could go sideways. In any event, it's a a message that you can take into any time frame as to that type of price action. And you look at the smaller time frame and you look at a higher time frame, which is always coming back to multiple time frame analysis, is like, how meaningful is this on a higher time frame? And as we look at the daily, we say, well, bottoming tail bars, buyers are stepping up on the dip, but an overall no big deal because it's pretty much where it was 5 days ago. So we really haven't made any progress other than jiggles up or down when we look at this daily time frame. And this is why, as day traders, we like to go to smaller time frames, but keeping in mind the perspective of the daily, because the smaller time frame could be your worst nightmare if you don't realize what you're dealing with overall. So where are we going from here? Well, the expectation would be, right, that this is going to break out to new all-time highs, since we've got these bottoming tail bars that are forming here, and it's kind of sloppy. I mean, when you get a big tail like that, and again, this is encompassing some overnight price action, another tail, but it's telling us that the buyers are stepping up on the dips. The weekly's in an uptrend. And so now we wait to see if we're going to get that new all-time high. And all of this is saying yes, but let's see if it'll actually do it since it's at this resistance, right? Well, futures perking there a little bit as I'm speaking. Qs, same story, similar patterns, same analysis. Can it break out? We'll see. Or, you always just staying objective and saying, well, that is a relatively shallow retracement and it's coming up to resistance. That could become an M top, but let's see. We'll give the benefit of the doubt to the fact that it's in an uptrend and just keep an eye, at least on a prior Day's low, prior week's low. Really simple. That's to say, well, the prior bar is our first low, is our first reference point of support. And, other than breaking below that, the depth of retracement could mean something. But yesterday, the depth of retracement said, hey, this thing's going down. And then, as we know, if you watch the intraday charts, it just whipped around. And as sellers couldn't take it lower, as everybody ran, and buyers stepped up. Dow, same story, same thing overall, running up here, getting closer to resistance so far. No break of trend on the 5-minute. And it's not up into that resistance there yet from a few days ago. So we'll see if it can keep going. Russell, pretty much the same story. I see similar patterns. This one, however, just based on the way it came down, isn't at resistance yet, which suggests it still has some room before it gets to the point where it's more likely to stall. Oil, the craziness with the gap up on the Saudi news, and now it came back down, and it's what was resistance should become support, but it's a wide range bar down. Doesn't suggest it's going to get up and run right back up to the high, but we keep an eye on this. So we look at patterns and say, historically, things that have this kind of craziness don't go right back up like that. So maybe some chopping around, it can hold this area. That would be supportive, I would say, next week to see if it can, get going to the upside again. Bonds, see they're up here. They've taken out the high of the wide range bar that was breaking down. At the time, this looked like it could be a measured move to the downside. That hasn't happened. The weekly's in an uptrend, so it's stopping short, somewhat short of getting toward that minor support. And you can see, it was right this area over here. Didn't quite get down there, but so the retracement here, this now with this retracing back up, if we look at yields, right? So they have to be coming back down here. And so while they've made this really nice move, it's brought things further enough away from that yield curve inversion, which was like this peekaboo down here. So now we've got this breathing room, so to speak, because of, the fact that this got back up here and not an inversion. As we covered earlier in the week, there's a lot of things to suggest this recession fears have dissipated for now. And we'll see how this all plays out. Gold getting down here a bit. Why is this up like that? It doesn't look right. Anyway, because it's maybe the contract's changing. This is continuous. Anyway, and it's just retracing off of this nasty blast there. Just jiggling around here. I don't know which way this is going to go. Back and forth. Silver stabilizing here. We'll see if next week these things can get going or not. And, can always like to look at the transports, which had a gap down yesterday, and they had that nice move up. And the last thing I wanted to look at, what time is it? Well, it's still early. I don't know how much Dan has to cover, but, our market internals. So we look at patterns and say, well, this looks like that and should break out to new all-time highs, right? So this is the spiders rather than looking at the futures. And you could see that bottoming tail bar there, where this was a big red bar intraday, which looked like it was coming down to that bottoming tail bar, right? Where these converging moving averages, there was an unfilled gap down here, and the buyers step up and drive it higher. So it's a bit higher here this morning, which is supportive of a bias that it's going to go up. So we look at our market internals and say, how much gas is in the tank here? And we'll see this is backed off, right? The sentiment didn't get that extreme, and breadth got a little further into it, but it's kind of backed off here. We'd like to see this pull back toward the zero line, but we don't always get the ideal. So I look at this and say, well, you know what? It's refueled a bit, but it's not like it's got a full tank. I know it is, Alex. I know it's inverted, and so are the others. So the other shorter term yield curve's inverted, and we discussed that in prior sessions. but the 3-month to the 30-year was the last holdout. And, that's the one that I've used over the last, couple of decades. And it was the last holdout, as I said, and it did get inverted for one day, and then it started to recover. So a lot of repairing the damage has been done. We'll see where it all goes. It's not like we have an all out, this is an amazing buying opportunity here. And why I'm showing this, because the longer term breadth is still up in this bearish area, but it could stay up there if the markets break out. And, we'd like to see this, coming down to this lower level here. But hey, you know what? So far, it looks like it could break out. So that's the bias. We don't have a full tank. And so we'll just see what happens. Howard, you're saying the recession proceeds by 20 months or so, which is true. Sometimes it's been less than that. But things have accelerated from what it's been in the past. And I'm not saying it can't be that, but in the past, you did not have markets anticipating inversion even before it happened and having larger corrections like we had earlier this year on anticipation of it. So things are moving faster than what they used to. So I just keeping that in the back of my mind that maybe it doesn't have to be that long a period of time as it was historically, but ultimately it comes down to the chart, right? The price chart. So as we look at the spiders and the Qs or what have you, and we look at that in multiple time frames, the market internals, intermarket analysis, all of that gives us, some guidance as to probabilities, but eventually something, as it happened, has to break the trend. So if we go back to the year 2000, where there was yield curves inverted, no one's talking about it. Transports are going down. Markets are still going up. And eventually they broke. So the heads up were there. Not that many people were really aware of it or even wanted to pay attention to it. And then, we all know what happened after March of 2000 into 2002. NASDAQ went down 90%. A lot of stocks went from triple digits to single digits. And so that's why we're all looking at this type of information openly to make sure that, we don't have stocks that are owning stocks that are getting crushed. And even in the short term, I was looking at one this morning, this OSTK. Now, it's not like a blue chip or anything, but how about losing 50% in a week? So it brings you back to whatever we're looking at. Everything comes back to money management and a trading plan, because at any given time, some craziness can occur. And, people that bought this as it went up and looked like it could keep going are now saying, what the hell do I do? So, don't come to the markets without a plan. All yours, Dan. FedEx looks like trouble, George. Gap down. It was nasty. It's sitting on some support down here, and not a good sign, but Dan can cover that.
Good morning. FedEx. Yeah, I mean, that fell off a building on volume, on support. It's a very bearish monthly there with that big old topping tail. We're mid-month. Typically, so now we want to see, it fell off a 30-story building, right? So we want to now see what it can do. Typically, if there's buyers down here, these gaps are bought, and this would be a big green bar, wide range bar, and it's not. It has a tail, but it closed right at midpoint below the open. I need a lot more information to take a bias. But the bigger time frames are bearish. So if this goes sideways and can't get very far, then we'll be looking, to short it. Opens in the weekly, we only have 3 of them. Tesla, Netflix, and Lyft, and that is it. Let's look at the swing letter. Cara, this marijuana stock we've been in for a while, and it's just dead money right here. CPRT, we're long stock. We got in on Tuesday, that little gap breakout to all-time highs. It's a bullish weekly, monthly. Expedia, we have a covered call. And so it's finally shaping up. You know, the covered call reduced our cost basis. We're short the 134s, I think. And this will be one on Friday, tomorrow. If it trades, if it closes above the short strike, I'm going to say we'll let them have it. And we made money. If it doesn't, then we will sell a covered call for next week. Hess, we're short the 65 puts. Naked, we'll take the stock if necessary. K, Kilo, also trading range, but at least it's above its 20 and 50. So that's dead money too, but you just gotta, we legged into a covered call though, at least. Mighty Mo, we're short stock, and I moved the stop to yesterday's high. Still weak. Look at it, pre-market, it's not gapping up. A little oil stock, core trade of ours, MR. We're long stock. Oscar Charlie, we're long stock plus a put spread. That looks great. Terp, we're long stock also on the wide range bar breakout. Finally, whiskey. We got a core trade and we're short the 35s. Same deal. Well, not the same deal. We're not going to let them take our stock. So I'll put out an instruction that says either roll it or sell a new one. That's it there. Let's look at gappers, FIVN, 56 bucks, gapping right there. You know, it's a bearish gap, but no pattern intraday. This is, oh, I just posted this as a core trade. We're going to do a half lot over the high. This was one, look, here, well, let's look at all time frames. Look at the monthly. Multi-year consolidation, little breakdown failure right there, going sideways. The weekly had a nice breakout. Daily had a huge breakout. And we said, we need to get this on a pullback. And that's what we got right now. Alex, if you take 100 shares of Hess instead of option, some may get a margin call, right? 10, well, margin call, wait. If you take 100 shares of a margin call is just a totally different question. But yes, if you don't have, so if you get assigned the underlying and don't have enough margin for it, buying power, because then it's 2-to-1, then absolutely you will get a margin call, without a doubt. I need to start building a list of more questions like that, because that's a good one. I got a lot of great emails already from our coaching session yesterday. I did a very detailed A to Z for beginners of our services, the right approach, how we work, basic definitions, and went over a lot of questions that I get. And I'm going to start combining some more. All right, so Hess, yeah, so we're short the 65 puts there. All right, WLL. I see it up here. I don't like the daily at all, but here's what I like on the 15-minute chart. You know, kind of the flavor of reverse head and shoulders. There's the pre-market head yesterday, snapped right back up, and now we have a gap going sideways with a price void. So if oil over the 30-minute high or these pre-market highs, that's a great day trade. You might even get up to 10.50 or so. Euros, There's no pattern here. Gapping up to $3. Beyond, I'm watching this for a put spread actually for tomorrow. Today's Thursday, so we have 1 DTE. And hey, Greg, I sent you the write-up. We're going to do the moving averages for next week. So I'm going to start keeping an eye on just, give some more chart examples. Look at these MAs, totally flat here and converging. A little bottoming tail. Now we're gapping up. It's not a swing whatsoever. But if this holds 30-minute high, let's do a 149 put spread for tomorrow. Oh, thanks, Cheryl. GNRC. No, we're not in this, but if you are, I'd love this 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And then once it got altitude, which was on this bar, then you would move your stop under this green bar, David. And now it's pulling in, and hopefully it'll hold right here, go up, and then that'll be your new pivot. Sure. General Motors, the only reason I'm looking at this is it's, McGraw, are you in the house? Let's see if we can get a condor on this. So we have definitive resistance at $40, and support down here. Maybe go out the next week if there's any juice. Look at look at Trader McGraw's new name. That's great. that was like Trader McGraw. Hey, George. Yeah, Greg will send out a link with the recording. Microsoft here, it's been range bound, but it's still bullish. Daily, weekly, monthly. Now it's gapping up. There was some news about a buyback and increase in the dividend. So this one, McGraw, this one would be a great candidate to even going out to, a month or whatever, and sell the 132.5 puts for next month. So let's keep an eye on that for a put spread. Costco had a downgrade, and we've talked about this one a couple of times this week, the way it came down hard, took out this prior pivot. And it's funny, I gave my answer twice in the week, and then Greg answered it also for somebody on MT Live yesterday, and we both said the same thing. We weren't confident, but today, if it took out yesterday's high, then we were okay for a short-term put spread. We said conflicting weekly, monthly, still we're toppy, and now it's gapping down. Now you got a bear gap on your hands. Romeo Hotel, that's a very bullish breakout, consolidation, but it's just too extended for me. Miller Herman 48.90, that's a bullish gap, but no pattern, too big. This is a penny stock toy, no interest. Overstock, yeah, Greg talked about that, 50% haircut, and I saw it gapping down here too. If it were gapping to support, like if this prior pivot were lower here, then that would be a great gap and snap candidate, and maybe even to sell puts on. X 1081, it's a nasty gap down here. Look at that. Who would think the biggest steel company in America, and maybe even the world, I don't know, $45 down to 1080. That's amazing decimation. I mean, steel is steel. It's a commodity. And the economy's been booming, right? They go into buildings and cars and whatever else. That shocks me. BABA is on our breakout list. Wow, this is, now that I look at this with more data on here, that's kind of a massive triangle. Look at these higher lows. Major resistance. I like that. Now it's breaking out here on the 15-minute pre-market. That looks great. Let's put BABA here in a 5-minute chart. It's not a gap play, but it's just a compelling breakout play. This was the play of the day yesterday. Look, and it even gave us, look, remember MT Live yesterday, folks? What did we talk about? Shakeouts? See that bar right there? 1030 reversal. It was extended pre-market. So then it had this attempt to bounce, topping tail, engulfing bar. That was your no-brainer entry right there. So yeah, there's some shoulda, coulda, woulda there, but the positive is it's another movie that you put in your bank. It was a beautiful bearish gap from bearish consolidation, and that was a beautiful entry. All right, FedEx, nothing. These are some of the semis I've been watching the last few days. LRCX, Teradyne looks great. I have that on a window on the other screen. 30-minute high, I like that. AMT broke out of this consolidation. Got whippy, with FOMC, but then it closed over the high. That looks like a swing. Same with XEL. Let's watch that 30-minute high. ENV, I know a couple of you, bought that little breakout there. Big price void, still looks higher. IRT, this is the all-time highs. Wide range igniting. SO, little utility, that's just incredible trend. Wow. That might be a good one to put in our course. Let me take a note. Not in our course, in our MT Live. Delta Kilo, perfect. This is our trade that's been posted for a couple days as a 1, 2, 3, and I said yesterday it's even better. Now it's gapping out of a 1, 2, 3. So you can do a 5-minute high, or it looks, yeah. Or just, buy it here. It looks great. I'll put that here. These were leftovers. KHC, you can short yesterday's low as a day trade. Baidu, I still had on my list. It's starting to get a deep retracement, but over yesterday's high. I like this. Yeah, market holding. So let's do the Delta Kilo is fine. Splunk I had here on my gap and go. This was on my put spread watch. I like the way it came out. gapped yesterday, bottoming tail at the gap fill. That's a put spread candidate. Fizzler, resistance there. SDC, nothing yet. Dan yelled at me. I went on Trader McGraw. Yeah, well, I can't yell at you. Remember, it's a buffet. All I said was it's not my setup. You know, I'm not going to yell at you for liking sushi and I don't. No, I'm not, never. I'll only yell if you do something stupid against our rules and your rules. All right, TYL. I like this. Let's just buy this right now. Let me see if that's an expensive stock. Stop 255.18. Let me see what the options look like.